There's an interesting debate in the Talmud between Hillel and Shammai, those great sages of the Mishnah, concerning a sukkah. Hillel says that a child who is still dependent on its mother does not have to sit in the sukkah. They're too young, they have no obligation. Whereas Shammai says no, even a very, very young child is required to sit in the sukkah. And in fact, Shammai himself created a little sukkah for his grandson, who was still in his crib. What is the meaning behind this debate? What exactly are they discussing? And I think the issue is, from what age should you start educating children about Torah and mitzvot? And this is related to the opening phrase of our parasha. Emor el ha-kohanim b'nei Aaron, Hashem instructs Moshe, speak to the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, va'amarta alehem, and say unto them. And immediately our sages are bothered by the redundancy. Emor el ha-kohanim, say to the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron, va'amarta alehem, and say to them. You already said that you should speak to the Kohanim, the sons of Aaron. Why does it say it again? Va'amarta alehem, and say to them. So the sages explain as follows. The first statement is for the adults. Say to the Kohanim, these are your unique laws. A Kohen is not allowed to come into contact with a dead body. Va'amarta alehem, but tell them that they also have to tell this to their children. In other words, they must tell their children who are still young and are not obligated in mitzvot that they should also stay away from a dead body. What do we see from here? That the Torah requires parents to instruct their children who are still minors in the observance of mitzvot, in this case, a negative commandment. This is not the only place in the Torah where it does this. It does this also in the laws of Shabbat. In the 10 Commandments, we are commanded, Zachor et Yom HaShabbat, you must remember the Shabbat. Who must remember Shabbat? It says you and your son and your daughter. Why does the Torah have to say you and your son and your daughter? When it says you, it means all Jews. So obviously your son and your daughter are included. No, our sages explain, it's referring to minors. Minors are usually exempt from mitzvot, but you as a parent have to see to it that your minor children observe mitzvot. It says a similar thing in Parshat Shmini when it's speaking about non-kosher foods. It says you, i.e. adults, have to make sure to keep kosher, but not only you, but you must also see to it that your young children do not eat food that is not kosher. Now what that means is, not that the minor, not that the child is themselves obligated, they're not, because according to Jewish law, until a boy is 13 or until a girl is 12, they are not obligated whatsoever. They have no personal responsibility. But you as an adult must see to it that they do not break negative commandments. If the child is a minor Kohen, he's not allowed to come into contact with the dead body. If a child is a minor, they're not allowed to break Shabbat. You must see to it, and you must see to it that they don't eat non-kosher food. The question, of course, is when does this mitzvah begin? And the sages tell us about a concept called chinuch. Chinuch is translated today as education, but it means more than that. It's training a child to get used to the mitzvot, even though the child is not obligated. So the Talmud says, for example, when a child is very young, if he knows how to shake a lulav, then give him a lulav and an etrog and show him how to shake it, even though he's not obligated. If a child knows how to wrap himself in a talis, then give them tzitzit. If a child knows how to speak Hebrew, teach them the Shema. They're not obligated, but get them into the mode. Get them into that attitude and that mindset of doing mitzvot, so that when they come of age, they are ready to do it. And that's the argument between Hillel and Shammai. Hillel was saying, well, only when a child is already ready. They have to be a little bit more mature. They don't need their mother anymore. Then they're obligated in a sukkah. Whereas Shammai says, no, we must start the child as early as possible. Even when the child doesn't really have an intellect, even when the child is in a crib, let them sit in a sukkah. Let them soak up that atmosphere. And it goes even a step further. And here we have a remarkable story. In Pirkei Avot, in the 2nd chapter, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai is speaking about his 5 closest disciples. And one of them was a man called Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananiah. And when he's praising this particular man, this rabbi, he says, Ashrei Yoladato. Praiseworthy is the woman who gave birth to Rabbi Yeshua ben Hananiah. But what was so special about the mother of this sage? When she was pregnant with her son, she went to all of the yeshivot, to the houses of study, and she said, please pray for this child, if it's a boy, that he grow up to be a great sage in Israel. and people prayed for this child. And when the child was born, she would come in with her pram into the yeshiva, and she would take the child there. And the child would soak in that atmosphere of learning. It was a baby. The baby didn't understand anything, but from a very young age, he was already enveloped in a Jewish atmosphere. And that's what Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai said. He's a great person, but you know who really deserves the praise? Is his mother, because she started to prepare for him already before he was even born. And in fact, there's a story about a couple who came to see a great rabbi. They had just had a little child, and they said, we would like to raise our child in the proper way. Please advise us. From day one, we want to know what to do. And he said, you're already 9 months too late. You should have come right at the beginning when you conceived the child. I would have told you that you can begin to instruct the child even while it's a fetus in the mother's womb. And that's the idea. We educate our children. We value our children. And we realize that when they're young, they're like little sponges. They can take so much in. So as soon as they're able to understand or even not understand a mitzvah, begin to train them so that when they come of age, they will become people who are used to mitzvot and have a love and a passion for mitzvot. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom.